And we were told, again, that Jesus wasn't the savage. You end up becoming a people pleaser. You end up tiptoeing, and you end up not having a backbone.
I grew up obese. The only way for me to get love is by being a people pleaser or performance. You're bleeding on everyone around you at all times. It's such a sad thing to me when I see men die with their God-given gifts still inside of them.
Welcome to the Savage Saint Podcast.
That's for us, bro.
I think that's great to have a freaking prayer open us up. Well, I mean, you just did it, but it's just not caught this time.
I pray for us.
You do. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right, dude.
It's not a public show.
That's not what I mean.
I know. No, what you're saying is like have a prayer for us in the audience, not just for us.
Exactly. Yeah. To help men, like, because that is one of our biggest powers, right? Is prayer.
Absolutely it is.
As men.
Yes, that is one of our weapons.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Welcome to episode 2 of the Savage Saint Podcast, guys. And we are excited about this one. Today, we're going to dive deeper into why we chose the name Savage Saint and the history, what's going on in the world today. And then we're going to break down where we actually got that from. Fabian, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, bro.
Good.
I'm doing great.
Good.
Feeling good. Got to spend some quality time with my daughter, so.
That's always a blessing, man.
It is.
Family.
Yeah.
The family is the family we choose, and being able to put intention and love into those people, it is a true blessing in life.
It is a sacrifice, too.
Oh, it's definitely that.
Yeah.
Especially a 2-year-old.
Especially as men. It is a sacrifice for sure.
Yeah. So let's get into it, man. What I want to talk about, just opening up, is what you and I have been witness to. We've both been doing men's work for a really long time.
Yeah.
So we've seen really an evolution of what a man is and how a man portrays himself in the world over the last decade. So let's get into that. Kind of walk me through, from your point of view, your perspective, what you've seen over the last decade of working with men.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good to start with what we were told it is to be a man.
Yeah, that thing.
Right. So I was told as a kid, and my mom would say her intentions were good in about what she was saying. She was like, be a nice guy. Right.
Yeah.
Be a nice guy. Don't be a jerk. Don't be a bully. Be a nice guy.
Be nice.
Right. And the intention is again pure, but there's a difference between a nice guy and a kind man. So something that I grew up being with a nice guy, because, you know, what's that Jim Carrey movie where he played The Mask with Stanley Ipkiss, was literally your typical nice guy.
Yeah.
And The Mask was that persona that he turned on, where it's like, this is who he actually wants to be, the confidence, the bravado, the swag, right? But we're taught that you can't be one or the other, right? We're taught that you have to pick. So I didn't agree with the macho, machismo, Marlboro man, where it's like you're stoic, you don't really share your emotions, you don't really talk about them, you don't even feel them. You just have this facade. But then I'm most aligned with the nice guy. But with the nice guy, there is consequences to that, because what you end up creating is covert contracts. But what I think they want is this. So I'm going to chameleon myself and become this man in this situation to get the love that I need or to get the needs that I want met. And in a relationship, that could look like, you know, you're doing things for sex. You're doing things because you're like, oh, if I act this way, I'm going to get sex.
Or she won't be mad at me.
Right. Yeah. So you end up becoming a people pleaser. You end up tiptoeing, and you end up not having a backbone because you don't actually have your own truth that you're speaking or you're leaning on, right? That you're anchored into. Problem the last 10 years that I think that we've both seen is men being condemned for being a man,
right,
or trying to be a man, trying to do what's right, trying to lead, trying to protect, trying to provide, not just financially, not just physically, but emotionally, which men have only really been given permission to feel over the last 60 years, right? So this is something that's pretty much new for us as a whole. So we've been condemned for trying to be good men, but we've also been condemned for being nice guys.
Correct.
And we've also been condemned which I think the unhealthy masculine, most people call toxic masculinity, but I have my own, we both have our own feelings about that word, because if you're going to like define an entire gender by toxicity, you also have to.
It's toxic humans.
Yeah.
Let's just call it what it is.
Exactly. Right. There's both. So most men feel like there's no win. Like, what am I even doing? So a lot of them are just giving up. And sometimes like giving up is literally the taking of their own life, because they're just like, I don't want to deal with this burden anymore. And I think that's a very real thing that men experience. I know I've experienced that. I know you've experienced that. And I think what we're really starting to see now is people, they're done with that.
Yep.
I think the problem is that men have just been lost. There's no healthy masculine figures. There's no healthy male figures to initiate us or have the rite of passages like when we were younger, which is something that we both talk about, which do exist in other countries around the world still, because they see that a boy is different than a girl. Let's just
Call it like it is.
call it like it is, right? A boy needs to learn how to separate from the mother. Emotionally, physically, he starts to realize, I am not her. So who am I? And that is the role of a father or a father figure. And we haven't had healthy father figures.
No.
And this is not to, like the word condemn. It's not to condemn the fathers, our fathers. It's not to condemn their fathers or anyone. They were never taught any of this stuff.
They didn't have the healthy figure.
They didn't have it either. So it's just like this perpetual generational chain of unhealthy men, and not for lack of care, but for lack of rite of passage, initiations, being taught this is who you are by other men, not by women. Very different. Because I know that there's good intentions for women who are single moms, which the intentions are beautiful, but even they start to realize, if they are healthy enough, they start to realize, I am not the one who needs to be teaching him.
Right.
So they look for men, which is why I think a lot of men end up going to church at times, because, and you're going to have more on this, they need them to be around other men. We need that. And we need to learn. Men learn by modeling.
Correct.
So we need to model from healthier figures. But most of us are seeing right now the Andrew Tateisms, which you hear so much about. You hear about the red pill. You hear about pickup artistry, gangs. That's another form of
Fatherhood.
Another form of fatherhood, the false initiations. The military is another one, because they don't actually care to understand who the man is at his core. They want to mold him for their own benefit.
Correct.
Which, understandable, right? Because you need him to be a certain way.
Yep.
However, when he comes out back into the real world, who is he now? Gangs, fraternities, these are all false initiatory rites of passages.
Right.
And this is what most men go to. But this is where we believe what we're doing is so important.
Yeah. And, you know, from my point of view, I grew up traditional Italian household, strong masculine figures that, like you said, bury it, don't talk about it. Still to this day, one of my dad's favorite sayings is keep your head down, your feet moving, which is exactly that. Don't talk about your emotions, just keep moving forward. And then I always joke, growing up, you know, everybody's asked like, who are you close to, your mom or your dad? Growing up a nice guy as well, I always tell people I was always whoever's in the better mood guy. That's who I just gravitated to. Whoever's in a better mood, that's the mom or dad that I want to be around at the moment. And I grew up obese. So what I learned growing up obese was people pleasing. And if I people please, people will like me. If I do what I think they want me to do, then they will accept me, because growing up obese and fat, you deal with a lot of bullying, rejection, all that. So if I'm just nice, if I put away and compartmentalize this pain of bullying and I'm still nice, I can still get acceptance that I'm searching for. So I grew up with that kind of mental model, and going through that, so I had people pleasing, but I also had another side of me. I grew up in a very athletic household. So I also saw that I could gain validation through performance. And those were the two extremes that I lived in. The only way for me to get love is by being a people pleaser or performance. And that continued all the way through, I was in my late 20s before I started to realize how broken that model of the world was. And then I started doing a lot of this work. and I started coaching other men, which I've been doing for about 11 years now. And so I'm seeing this model and this perspective that I see the world through. I'm seeing other guys suffer with the same thing. I mean, out of the thousands of men that I've talked to, very rarely do I truly run into like a dark triad guy that's truly like Machiavelli or malicious. Most guys are nice guys, that struggling, people pleasing nice guy, that are either stuck in that or overcompensating for that. And that overcompensating thing is where you see people, they're flashing their money, they're trying to sleep with every girl who shows them attention, or the nice guy who's just a doormat for everyone in their life. And I started seeing both these extremes. And to me, why is there not this healthy version of both of those guys? The guy that's out there conquering the world, hey, that's great because that's where innovation comes from. That's where business comes from. That's where great things are achieved. And this nice guy, there's a place for that too. Like when you're playing with kids, like you want to be this childlike, gentle man, but I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing one or the other. And in my brain that's absolutely obsessed with solving problems, I'm like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be something in the middle here. But even over the last decade, because marketing, sales, and money, you see marketing to the extremes because marketing in the middle doesn't work. It doesn't make money.
Right.
So you're seeing marketing the alpha male, which I think the red pill Tate world is dying down. But I think what you're seeing a rise of is the entrepreneur tech bro.
Yeah.
That where success is his definition of masculinity. And that success is defined by money, status, and objects. And then you're also seeing a world you and I know very well, which is the woke world. Peace, love, kumbaya, happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And just go do 9 more ayahuasca ceremonies and love the world and everything's going to work out. And I think we're still seeing both those extremes right now.
We are.
I want you to go into what you've seen in the new age manosphere.
Yeah.
I can speak a lot more because of my background, all this performance work to that side of the world, but I know you know the new age world a lot more than me. So I really want you to speak to what that looks like. What was the new age trying to teach men? What were they trying to mold men into?
Yeah. So, well, there's a lot of talk about the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Right. Those are two very key words or phrases that are fixated on quite a bit. And it has this belief of like, okay, if we are made in the image of God, so they take the verse in the Bible and they bastardize it in the sense of if we are made in the image of God, we must be God. So we have to embody both of these because both men and women have masculine and feminine energies, right? Which I can understand what they mean by that.
Yeah.
Or like, I used to teach this stuff.
I did too.
So we both have more masculine and more feminine traits. We both are driven, right? Purposeful, gritty, assertive. We also are very nurturing and caring and loving. Like that side comes out of me with my daughter. So we have both of those energies, but to think that we can embody the God form of those energies is where it goes really wrong. What I have noticed a lot is in some of the good things, I'll start with like a lot of the good things that it did teach, which was like, and technically it's based on psychology, but it's learning how to process and feel your emotions. Because if you don't learn how to process and feel your emotions as a man, you are never going to understand your woman's or even begin to, because hers are constantly fluctuating.
Yes.
We're on 24-hour cycles. They're on 28-day cycles. So one thing I love is that they did teach you how to do that. But the problem is you get stuck in that if there's no direction of where you're taking it. You can't just constantly be in a feeling hemisphere.
Correct.
Right? You can't just be feeling your way through things. And if it feels good, then I'm going to do it. Right?
Moral relativism.
Right. We talked about this, I think, the last podcast, doing what feels right versus doing what is right. That's the difference that I'm seeing, now being a Christian man, a Christ follower, is it's not just doing what feels right, because men doing what feels right is not, you're never going to be able to trust that man. No woman is going to be able to trust that man. You don't do what feels right today. You have to do what is right today. You have to challenge yourself. You have to sacrifice in ways that, like, I work a job where I'm in sales, and it's definitely not what pulls my heart. It doesn't bring me full joy. What brings me joy in it is I'm being relational with the people that I'm connecting with and talking to. I want to understand this person on a deeper level, but it's not my purpose. It doesn't have to be. But I think where we get caught up, and especially in the new age space, is everything is searching for pleasure, right?
Hedonism.
You go through hedonism. Yeah. So you're going into these deep healing experiences where you're healing, and then you justify it with, well, I'm doing a lot of work, so I need to go now pleasure. So it's healing, pleasure, healing, pleasure. It's just constant cyclical cycle that happens. And nobody actually gets it, like, is moving anywhere. There's no movement that happens of like, okay, what are we doing now? Where are we moving forward to? Like, what are we building? How can we serve people? It's more about what feels good for me and less about how can I serve you. So
It's inherently selfish.
it is at its core. It's somewhat, even some would say, narcissistic.
It is very narcissistic at its core, because even when you're chasing pleasure, so you're basically, your moral compass is your feelings,
Right.
and you're chasing pleasure. I know if I'm operating in the world like that, because I did during my prodigal years, that is not a good place to be. That is a drug addiction of external validation and emptiness.
Yeah.
That feels very good while the needle's in your arm, but as soon as you're not having that hit of whatever pleasure you're partaking in, you are immediately like in the void, and I've got to find it again. And I think that's what you're speaking to, why all the healing has to happen, is because you chase pleasure and you get on that hedonic treadmill of pleasure. And the thing about chasing pleasure and going by your feelings is you're not living by mission and purpose.
Right.
So ultimately, you're just getting these hits of, I feel good, it's not there, I feel like crap.
Yeah.
I got to go chase it again. I feel good, it's not there, I feel like crap. You know what? I must be broken.
Yeah.
I need to go heal again. You go heal, you feel better about yourself, and then you go do the same thing. And that's what you said. It's just a repeating cycle. And people wonder, like I said earlier, why you need the 9 ayahuasca ceremonies,
Yeah.
why you need the 9 DMT retreats.
Yeah.
It's because you're never actually, you and I have talked about like Adler psychology, difference in Freud and Adler. Adler was so much more mission and purpose, having a meaning to your life.
Mhm.
And that's what propels people forward. Versus Freud was more like, hey, let's just solve all your shadows, and then that's going to propel you forward.
Mhm.
But the problem that we're seeing with that is people just get stuck in the shadows.
Yeah. Well, they think that there's always more. And the thing is, there might be.
It probably is.
There probably is more. That's not the problem. The problem is thinking that you constantly have to go into a healing cycle. A vortex is what the words that I remember using. You're constantly in this healing vortex of needing to go deeper and deeper into the process, when in reality, you forget to be a human.
And I see a lot of men struggling with that right now because they feel like I always got to fix this. And I struggle with this for a long time. Once I got into the world of personal development, it created so much awareness of all the places that I'm broken. I spent so much time trying to heal and fix the broken that I forgot to actually move forward. And I got into personal development to move forward. But this awareness stuck me in my past.
Yeah.
So therefore, all I'm focusing on is healing my past, but then I just ruminated on it. And it created, to use your word, a vortex of just stuck.
Yeah.
And I was wondering why I wasn't getting any better.
Spot on.
You and I both seen it, because I was definitely in the new age world for a while too, of just learning, because I wanted any modality I possibly could to help myself, to
Mhm.
fix myself. And the thing you have to remember is the realization you're not Jesus.
Yeah.
You're not perfect. You're always going to have unhealed parts of you. You're always going to have parts of you that, yes, you could spend time working on. But if you spend all your time there, like I made the mistake of doing, where are you going? You're not helping anyone else. If all you do in your relationship is try to fix everything that's broken, watch how quickly that relationship ends. I've made that mistake before too.
Same.
So transitioning from there, the scripture that I want to bring up is Proverbs 29:18. And I love the KJV for this particular verse, and where there is no vision, the people perish. And the reason I'm bringing up that verse here is for so long, we did not have a vision of what masculinity was. We didn't have a vision because, like we just talked about, the dichotomy of the decision you have to make.
Mhm.
You can be a good man, a nice guy, or you can be this alpha warrior. You can't be both, because that's what marketing and sales and money told us we had to choose between. And it really is a false dilemma.
It is.
Talk about that.
So this is where I think, and it's understandable why so many men have gotten lost, because even the picture that we talked about this last week on the last podcast, the picture that was depicted for us of who Jesus was very soft,
Yes.
very nurturing, very loving, very just like almost like a dainty man.
Dainty man with a lamb in his lap,
Right.
long hair, feminine looking.
Right. But that's not who the Jesus in the Bible is.
No.
When you actually sit down and read it, you see that he is a savage saint. Obviously more than that, right? He is, well, that's what we are aspiring to be.
Correct.
And we will never be him, but that's like who he was.
That is the vision.
The vision, exactly. He was nurturing, loving, compassionate to the people he was teaching. But he was also a savage to the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the people in power. And we have forgotten that we can actually embody both of those, because each situation requires a different person. If I'm soft and nurturing to the guy who's trying to kill my family, what's going to happen?
You're a coward.
Right. They're going to die. I'm going to die. I can't be that.
No.
In that moment, I have to switch. And every man needs to have the ability, God forbid, to do that.
Correct.
And we pray that that never happens.
100%.
Right? Because I think something, people talk about, thou shalt not murder, right? There's a difference between killing and murdering. Killing is in defense. Murdering is not. So I don't want to go too far down that, but
I'm going to choose my family over home invader every time.
every time, for sure, without a doubt. And we were told, again, that Jesus wasn't the savage. So a lot of Christian men have gone down the soft, nurturing path and wonder why their woman is leading, why their woman doesn't respect them, why they are depressed, why they have been in this cycle of shame and guilt for so long. And I think it's because the church didn't really do the best job in teaching them how to be men like Jesus.
No, and there's a whole history lesson there,
Right.
about World War II, and all the good men went to go fight. All the more feminine men, were back home.
Mhm.
Even like elderly men, right? Elderly men kind of lose vigor as they get older. They do soften with age,
Right.
which is normal, right? We don't need a 70-year-old man being full of piss and vinegar, as they say. So, these men went to go fight, and the church was left with older men and women. So not by, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so I'm going to say that was a conscious choice, but it was just an unconscious thing that happened where the church is feminized over the years during war. And then all these war heroes came home to a feminine church, and they're like, I don't want any part of that.
Right.
I don't feel comfortable there. Men don't feel comfortable in women's spaces. Women feel comfortable in men's spaces because they're safe.
Right.
Women can go to a sports bar and they're completely fine. Men go into a nail salon or a beauty salon, and the whole time we're like, I don't know what to do right now.
Yeah,
What's going on? It's even funny, like in women's department stores, like boutiques and stuff, they put a man's chair. They're like, hey, bro, you can go sit over there while your woman's doing her thing, because they understand that. We saw that happen. So now you had all these masculine warriors not in church anymore. So they didn't have that influence. And that rode out until feminism kicked in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we saw the divide get greater. And then, of course, the seeker-sensitive movement on the tail end of that, where, hey, let's just not say mean things. Let's not say anything to provoke anyone, because we want to welcome everybody.
Right.
Which I'm pretty sure is not what Jesus said to do.
Yeah.
He came to divide with a sword. But
can I add something there real quick?
Yeah.
Joby Martin talks about this, the seminary he went to become a pastor. They wanted to change the language of the Bible.
Yeah.
Because there's too much war language in the Bible. And he was like, no, like, why would you do that? They didn't like him at his seminary. They wanted to kick him out.
correct. Or even in some of the new translations of the Bible, they make it gender neutral language.
Which is wild.
Wild.
Because that's not obviously what God said.
Correct.
There's a reason for each word that he says.
How you have this being God-breathed, inspired word, yet you're going to change it to your human liking.
Right. To be more open.
Seeker-sensitive.
Yeah. Right. So I think that's all I wanted to add to that, because like you just said was exactly that.
So that seeker-sensitive movement happened, and we didn't say anything that was offensive. We wanted to welcome everybody, which look, there's a place for evangelism. But you should never evangelize on the altar of truth. You should never sacrifice right and wrong, sacrifice truth to evangelize. Because now, in marketing terms, they call that the bait and switch, because that's not the true gospel. So you had that feminization of the church, what you're talking about, and just a lot of men rebelled against that. And I don't blame them. I had a hard time with that in my own early church life, especially going to church and singing these worship songs that are in this really high key. Like, if you can't tell, I don't exactly have an alto voice. So I have a really hard time. I'm more comfortable down here, if we're being honest. And so I have a hard time singing those love songs that feel really just like, I don't know, they just feel gross to me. Like, I feel like I'm getting intimate with the Lord in all the wrong ways, which is, look, I get my own personal bias here. But you had that, and there's a lot of guys who are like, I'm going to show up physically, but my heart's not in this.
Yeah.
You're not calling me to be more. You're not calling the warrior spirit in me. You're not calling me to be a man. You're calling me to make sure my family gets there on Sunday and do what they need to do.
Right.
And it doesn't appeal to men. So we are seeing a little bit of that resurgence now, but because of the feminization of the church and this kind of resurgence of alpha, even though that term is horribly wrong when you actually look at what an alpha really is. But because of that, men just thought they had to make a choice. I'm going to go to church and be this weak, feminized boy, or I can go be a man out in the world and conquer, slay, kill, and do all the things the society tells me makes me a man. But they had no vision of, no, actually, you can be a healthy version of both. And that false decision they had to make, it led to this extreme that we're seeing now in the world, where we do have a lot of feminized men who are doormats. They're getting run over in their beliefs, what they want in life. And then you also have men who look at them like, hold on, bro, that's not what a man is. Let me go to the far other extreme and live the hedonistic lifestyle.
Right.
Where I'm just chasing pleasure. I'm chasing all the things that validate what I think I want to be in this world. And it's been a real shame to watch, because as men have done that, society has suffered. And that has been really, really sad to see.
Was it Tony Robbins who said strong men, or what is it? Weak men create hard times create
Strong men.
men create good times create weak men.
Yeah, that's the cycle. He repeated it. I forgot who originally said it, but yeah, that's been a common saying for the last few years.
Yeah.
Because
It's so true.
we're seeing it play out.
It's so visible. And I feel like there's this, as we're talking about, there's this shift happening where like men are starting to wake up and be like, okay, like I need to do something.
Yep.
Because 1, my family is suffering.
Yep.
2, I'm suffering. 3, I don't want to carry this. I don't want to be this person anymore.
Yep.
Right. And I think it starts on like what we're doing now on this individual level, where we're now working like with men individually and eventually building into something bigger. But I think what men are just tired. Women are exhausted.
Women are tired of trying to be men.
And that's obviously probably another podcast. Ladies, if you're watching this, that's a podcast for another time.
And even the Bible specifically says you can be both. And probably the most popular verse right now for men in the Bible is 1 Corinthians 16, 13, and 14. I did a whole 6-week Bible study just on those 2 verses. And this is another verse that you got to make sure you go to the right translation, because the male language has been pulled out of it in a lot of translations. So the actual verse says, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong, let all you do be done in love. So the first half of it is all these masculine characteristics. Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, which basically Paul talks about be mature.
Right.
Just put away your childish ways.
Yeah.
That's why he says that there. But a lot of the translations will, instead of act like men, they'll put in be courageous, which is not what that means.
Right.
That means to put away childish ways, which is the hedonism and all the things we were just talking about, and be strong. So the first half of it is all the things you need to do to be a man. But then Paul says, let all that you do be done in love. So literally in these 2 verses, it's saying you don't have to pick. You can be both. I want you to be the full expression of a man through the filter of love. And that really is to boil down what we're trying to talk about here. And it's literally in 2 verses, but we've sold men they had to make a choice, which is really stupid.
Right. And that's exactly who Jesus was.
So that's a history lesson. And we went on for a little while about just what we've been seeing and a little bit of our own history, but also in doing men's work for a combined probably 20 years of what we're seeing right now in men. But now we're going to get into why we went with Savage Saint and the history of where that comes from. When you look at a Savage Saint, one way to look at it is governed strength. So controlled strength. We want you to be the full strength of who God created you to be under God's authority. So it's the full expression of your masculinity while still following his governance. Power under obedience, force restrained by love. And I love that part of it too, because we do need to have force in this world. Because if you don't have force, you're powerless. And if you're powerless, you can't provide, you can't protect, like can't do anything a man is supposed to do in this world. Yet it is restrained by love. And that's, you were talking about that with the New Age. They were doing everything through the lens of love without a lot of force. And the thing about love that the New Age gets wrong is New Age is love of self. Biblical love as men is love of people. Jesus literally said the greatest commandment is to love God, love people. It's not love God, love yourself. Love God, love people. And that's the restraint of love that the Bible focuses on. So that's kind of where we're getting the Savage Saint from, guys, is the savage side of it is to be full masculinity, full man who God created you to be as a warrior, as someone who fights for what God put in their life to do, whether it be the stewardship of your business, the stewardship of your family, whatever it is, but just through that restraint of God love, people love. The scripture that I want to wrap this part in is Proverbs 25:28. A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. So basically, a man without self-control. So we want you to be the savage with self-control. And talk to us about what happens when we don't have that self-control.
We become dangerous. Because if we are savage and we don't understand how to control the emotions inside of our body, there's a reason we are as strong as we are. It's not to kill, it's to protect. And if we don't learn how to feel as men, not shut it off, right? Like we already know that God gave us tears for a reason.
Yeah.
God gave us the ability to feel for a reason. We need to learn how to control those feelings.
Shortest verse in the Bible.
Right.
Jesus wept.
Yeah. Why do you think Jesus wept?
Because his friend died.
Yeah.
And it hurts.
Exactly. And so we're allowed to feel those emotions. What we do with those emotions, it determines whether you are embodied or not, right? Jesus was an embodied man, meaning he knew how to feel his emotions. He knew how to process his emotions. He allowed himself to feel his emotions because as fully man, fully God, and he didn't project those on the people.
No.
Right. And people want to talk about why was he like that with the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the people in power? Well, why do you think he was like that?
Because he always stands up for the truth.
Right. So that can be emotion behind that. That's force, but with love.
Oh.
So it can be very dangerous. Men become very toxic. Men become very, but again, it's not toxic masculinity.
No.
It is just men can become that. Men can become unhealthy.
Behaviors can be toxic.
Exactly. Plus we're stronger.
Yeah.
Right?
Doctrine.
Exactly. So we need to learn how to control it so that the people around us can feel safe and that we can feel safe within our own body. Because what we see a lot of, and things that I've also experienced in my past, where it's like, I didn't feel safe in my own body. I was constantly searching and trying to grab onto something to help me feel grounded. But that's, again, going back to who Jesus is for us.
Yeah, and I know I'll be honest here for a second. The times in my life where I've let my anger get the best of me, I'll just use my current relationship as an example. The times where I've let my anger get the best of me and I'm actually displaying anger, I see what happens to my girlfriend. I see the fear come up. And that to me feels awful. Like when I'm making her scared, I just wanted to like quiver away and die at that moment. And it ruined me on the inside knowing what that did to her. So that's the part of force that you have to put through the filter of love, because yes, you do have the ability to do that. Look at the damage you can do to your kids when you're angry and saying things through an unfiltered mouth without the self-control that Paul tells Timothy about. When you're unfiltered like that, you say a lot of things that you and I both know from doing a lot of work with men and ourselves too. Those words can sometimes have permanent consequences. It can be one lashing out in anger that now that kid remembers for the rest of their life and alters the trajectory of their personality forever. Same thing happens in your relationship. Because guys, I hate to break it to you, she never forgets. So you could say that one thing to her, and now that's going to be a thorn in her side that will come up every time something happens. So you have to be so careful in those moments. Going from that, guys, what I want to talk to you about is Savage Saint. When we were trying to decide on a name for what we're putting together, oh man, did we go through so many names. We literally, I will go ahead and say, it was stupid how much time we spent to come up with what to call what we're putting together.
For obvious reasons, right? We're trying to figure out what's going to depict what a man can actually embody.
Yeah.
Like what can that look like?
What actually speaks to men, that actually talks about what we're trying to help men with, that also actually speaks to men from a marketing standpoint. And so through a lot of just research, prayer, and honestly quiet time, stumbled across an article by C.S. Lewis. And guys, if y'all have not done reading through C.S. Lewis, please just start with Mere Christianity. Start there. But there's so many more fantastic books. And actually, C.S. Lewis wrote a ton about what it means to be a man. It's in all of his work, from Narnia to the Space Trilogy. It's in so much of his work. He's just not like come out explicitly saying, this is what it means to be a man. He's building it into his story to teach the lessons of what it means to be a man. But there was one article in particular that came out that we pulled this exact name from. So we didn't just like come up with that out of thin air, guys. This is actually really diving into scripture, really diving in to what does the Bible say about men. And C.S. Lewis wrote an article during World War II, 3 days before Churchill gave the speech, "Never was so much owed by so many to so few," during the Battle of Britain. So 3 days before Churchill gave that speech, Lewis published this article, and the article was on chivalry. And I want to go into the history of chivalry really quickly, because that's another term that has been just all the wrong ways here lately. When men think of chivalry these days, they think about opening the car door, walking on the correct side of the sidewalk, which, by the way, so many men don't know what that means.
Right.
If you don't know what that means, shame on you. Please ask a man in your life what that means.
We're not actually shaming you, but definitely learn.
I'm kind of shaming you. But chivalry actually literally translates to a horse soldier. It's a code of conduct for horse soldiers. That's what chivalry is. And it's actually a French term. Chivalry is how you say that. I'm not French by any means, but it had an ethical code. So going into traditional chivalry, what it meant was prowess, skill, strength, bravery in battle, loyalty to one's lord, family, and God, honor and generosity, courtesy, showing kindness, respect, and good manners, piety, devotion to God, protection, a duty to defend. That's what chivalry is a code that men lived by. And from that, it provided a framework for knights' behaviors. So as C.S. Lewis was talking about this, his main argument was the knight represents a deliberate fusion of two opposing qualities that don't naturally go together: ferocity and meekness, violence and gentleness, the capacity for brutal warfare, and the discipline to be dignified. For those of you who don't know, C.S. Lewis was absolutely in love with medieval times and the thought of the knight. A lot of his studies around classical literature was during this time period. So he actually, even like some of his friends, they used to act out Lancelot.
Tolkien.
Yeah,
J.R.R. Tolkien of Lord of the Rings.
they were obsessed with that model. And I'm going to tell you why here in a second, some of his direct quotes, but that's where he drew a lot of this from. And what he was saying was, this is how a man should live in this world. Because what's really funny is C.S. Lewis talks about androgyny and the way that actually a lot of this gender neutral stuff that's happening in the society right now, Lewis was talking about this. And he was bringing up these points of this is how a man should be because he saw that coming.
Wow.
Yes, exactly. So guys, I'm going to read you some excerpts from that article just so you understand where the name Savage Saint comes from. So here we go. The word chivalry has meant a lot of different things over the years, from heavy cavalry to giving a woman a seat on a train. But if we want to understand chivalry as its own distinct ideal, if we want to isolate that particular conception of the ideal man that the Middle Ages gave to our culture, we can't do better than to turn to the words spoken to the greatest of all imaginary knights in Mallory Morte's De Author. And what that quote is, Sir Ector to the dead Lancelot, thou wert the meekest man that ever ate in hall among ladies. Thou wert the sternest knight to thy mortal foe that ever put spear in the rest. The important thing about this ideal is the double demand that makes on human nature. The knight is a man of blood and iron, a man familiar with the sight of smashed faces and ragged stumps of lopped off limbs. He is also demure, almost maiden-like guest in hall, a gentle, modest, unobtrusive man. He is not a compromise or a happy mean between ferocity and meekness. He is fierce to the nth and meek to the nth. When Lancelot heard himself pronounced the best knight in the world, he wept as he had been a child that had been beaten. The medieval ideal brought together two things which have no natural tendency to gravitate towards one another. It brought them together for that very reason. It taught humility and forbearance to the great warrior because everyone knew by experience how much he usually needed that lesson. It demanded valor of the urbane and modest men because everyone knew that he was as likely as not to be a milksop. Love that term. The Middle Ages locked on to the one hope that could save the world. So C.S. Lewis is literally saying, this is a hope that could save the world. Maybe we can produce thousands of men who combine both sides of Lancelot's character. Maybe we can't. But if we can't, then forget about lasting happiness and dignity in human society. That's just fantasy. So what C.S. Lewis is saying is if men can't be both, then we're screwed as a society.
Which we've been seeing.
Which is exactly what we've been seeing and why we have so much trouble today. So last part of that I wanted to read to you, because I think this is the truth of it. Nothing else can happen when the stern and the meek become mutually exclusive. Never forget, this is their unnatural state. So it's not natural for a man to be both. It's not just how he comes out of the womb. The man who combines both characters, the knight, is not a product of nature, but of art. An art that uses human beings instead of canvas or marble. The reason I love that last part so much is, guys, it's okay if you're not this man yet. It's not you in your natural state. Your natural state is hedonism. Your natural state is just kind of going with the wind. But what C.S. Lewis is pointing to here is expressing both of these to the nth degree, to use his words. That is your art in this world, is you becoming that man. And I love that.
Yep.
Because this is not something that you're just going to stumble into. Art is an intentional creation. It's something you have to have vision. So what is it supposed to look like? I'm thinking about it in my head, right? And then you go out in the world and you create it. It's not just going to happen. I think that's where so many men are falling short right now, is they're just getting blown by, oh, a man's supposed to do this. A man's supposed to do this. Oh, this is how I should be in the world. No. What is the truth
Mm-hmm.
of what a man's supposed to be? Now let me go create that
Right.
in this world.
And we have that through who Jesus was.
100%. We have so many examples of that. Yes, the ultimate one being Jesus, but we've got Joseph. We've got
Mhm.
David. We've got Joseph again. We've got Paul,
Daniel.
Daniel. We've got so many examples that, yes, other than Jesus, no one's perfect. So you're not saying like, oh, David is the example.
Right.
You're drawing like, okay, I can learn this good from him, but I can also learn not to do what he did here.
Right.
Looking at someone like Moses, Moses had fear at times, and Moses didn't get allowed to the promised land because he didn't do what God told him to do. So many things we can say, okay, yes, I like this about this guy, but I can also learn not to do this from this guy. But all the examples are there. And through the entire canon, it gives you this picture of what a Christian man is supposed to be. Yet we pick and choose. I like that. I don't like that. No, you have to become the full, complete man. You have to become the savage saint.
What we believe is that savage saint, becoming a savage saint, is going to be the same thing as what Lewis described as the knight. The words that I use are, you have the capacity for both,
Correct.
right? You have the capacity for gentleness. You have the capacity for ferocity.
And it's not a switch, it's a dial.
Right. And that's where I like the word that it's called range.
Correct.
So it's like the temperature, you know, when you need it. It's innately designed and built in us. Right. And that's the thing that makes us different from animals. We still have that aspect in us.
Yes.
That primal animalistic side, but we need to learn to control it. We need to learn when it comes out and when it doesn't. Because as you said, and I'm the exact same thing, if it comes out and it's not contained, it instills fear in the people that you love. And that's one of the worst things that you can do as a man. It's one of the things that I've done before, is it instills fear. And that fear will create dissonance in the relationship and a lack of trust. Plus, I have a daughter now. She's almost 2 years old. If that part comes out of me, she's going to be scared.
You're no longer safe.
Right. I'm the person that she looks up to protect her.
Correct.
And if she can't do that, then she's not going to feel protected anywhere. So we have such an important job of learning how to be the savage and learning how to be obedient. And I think the way that you wrote it here, he wages war without becoming a monster.
Correct.
Okay. He shows tenderness without becoming weak. He stands firm because his strength is governed. I like what you said too, by the gospel.
Correct.
By God.
Yes.
Like we are submitted underneath him. It's not our own doing.
No.
And I think that's, again, where a lot of men get mixed up, is like, we actually need that,
Yes.
right? Do as Jesus did for the church.
Well, without law and rule, we're just animals.
Right.
Without a moral compass, we are just doing what we want to do, moral relativism. And we need to be grounded in some sort of truth. Jordan Peterson talks about a game without rules is no longer fun. You need those rules to actually enjoy life. Because if I'm playing basketball and someone puts me on a basketball court, I don't know any rules to basketball. I have no clue like what the lines on the court means. I don't even know that I can't dribble in 2 steps. I don't know any of those rules. How are you and I going to have fun playing basketball?
Right.
Because every time I do something stupid, you're like, bro, that's a foul.
Yeah.
You don't know the rules? I'm like, no one told me the rules. So we're not gonna be able to play the game. So we have to have this rules that we all agree to in order to play this game of life together. And I don't like calling it a game, but just for this analogy, it is what it is.
Mm.
And in this, guys, like the scripture here, 1 Timothy 4:16, keep a close watch on how you live and on your teaching. Stay true to what is right for the sake of your own salvation and the salvation of those who hear you. So you're keeping your eye on what is right, what is true, not only for yourself, but for everyone you love. Everyone, because a lot of guys make the mistake of, well, I'm not teaching anyone. That is a false narrative. You're literally teaching everyone you come in contact with who you are, how to treat you, how you live your life, you're bleeding on everyone around you at all times. So you're teaching whether you like it or not, especially as a man with a family. You're teaching that family at all times. And that's just something you have to own and admit to. So what are you teaching them?
Right.
Are you teaching them just your emotions and reactions, or are you teaching them gospel-centered truth? That a man is called to be under self-control with everything to the filter of love. And I guess that's the call to action, guys, is what kind of man do you want to be in this world? How do you want people to look at you? What do you want your eulogy to read?
Yeah.
Like what impact do you want to have in this world? Do you want to die and that dash mean nothing? Or do you want to live a life worthy of what God put you here to do? It's such a sad thing to me when I see men die with their God-given gifts still inside of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's so many men right now because they're never tapping into source. And I'm not saying New Age source, I'm saying God.
Yeah.
So it's such a shame to me when I see that, when I see men living under their potential, when I see men that are full of so much greatness, so much love, and they're too scared to let it out in the world. And I'll close with this scripture, guys, because this is really the call to action, is I want you to make that choice to become the Savage Saint, to become the man God called you to be. 1 Corinthians 15:58. So my dear brothers and sisters, be strong and immovable. Always work enthusiastically for the Lord, for you know that nothing you do for the Lord is ever useless. Nothing you do is useless. Everything you do means something. So what is that meaning going to be for everyone in your life?
This is why we're here.
This is why we're here. This is the mission. And this is why we're passionate about the mission, because we've seen the other side of it too much.
Yeah.
Both of us are tired of seeing it
Yeah.
and we're ready to do something about it.
Yeah. We're tired of it, seeing it in ourselves too.
100%.
That's how we came about doing this.
Yeah.
It's like we first realized that we were what we see in the world and we needed to change.
100%.
And so that's why we feel like God has called us to do that for other men too. Not above, but side by side.
Correct.
I think that's the important part, because you see a lot of gurus talking over and
We are not the gurus. We're just other men that are ready to lock arms with you and move this thing forward.
Yep. We're in the arena.
So guys, that's it for episode 2 of the Savage Saint. I hope you learned something today. Leave a comment down below of what you learned, your biggest takeaway, and let us know how we can help and serve you become the Savage Saint you were meant to be.
Please subscribe too. Share this if it resonates. Share this with whoever needs to hear this. At least one man.
Bye, guys.
Peace out.